We are Black Horse. We are the Lions.
Luckily here in Milwaukee, the roof is closed because it is October-like, maybe November-like weather here in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Temperature in the mid-40s as the Reds start their final road trip of 2014. It's a 9-gamer, and it begins here at Miller Park in Milwaukee. Tonight, the Reds and the Brewers here on Fox Sports Ohio. And hi, and a pleasant good evening, everyone, and welcome to Reds Baseball. Jim Couch along with Chris Welsh. We come to you from inside Miller Park, first game of this series, and why should it be surprising when we come to you tonight with news of Reds injuries? It's been really the story of this entire 2014 season. Today we learned that Skip Schumacher goes out with a shoulder injury that occurred in spring training. Also, Matt Latos is out, Chris, so a new starter for the Reds tonight.
Well, it's a good thing you've got a 40-man roster in baseball because the Reds certainly have exceeded their 25-man. It's like a traveling MASH unit. Skip Schumacher, his shoulder never really got better after he separated it back in spring training. Second time that he had done that. And he knew that he was going to have a little cleanup operation after the end of the year, but you could tell he wasn't ready or 100%. Last few starts, evidently, Matt Latos' elbow has been bothering him. They say he's got a bone bruise in there. He will not make the start, so when a door closes, another door opens, and that means that Daniel Corsino gets a start tonight. His first major league start. He's only 23 years old. In fact, he's 24 years old. He just turned 24 the other day, or a couple weeks ago in August. But after a couple of relief appearances, here he is going to get the ball in a big game, especially from the standpoint of the Milwaukee Brewers.
Yeah, and he'll get it against a Milwaukee club that has led the National League Central most of the year, but when the schedule turned to August, their fate really went the opposite direction that they had hoped it would go, and here they are now looking up at the Cardinals and the Pirates.
At one time, they were flying high. 10 games over at the All-Star break. On August the 19th, they had swept the Los Angeles Dodgers. They had the second-best record in the National League, and then it hit the fan. They had lost 16 of the 19 ball games that they had played, and they really weren't able to stop the slide. But they did win the last 2 games against the Miami Marlins just yesterday and the day before. They feel like all the bad omens are out of this ballpark, that luck is beginning to go their way, and you've got to be careful about a team that has lost as many games as they had. All of a sudden, when you start winning, they can do it in bunches, and they do it behind pitching. Kyle Lewis, he's our old friend, former Red, former St. Louis Cardinal. He's on the mound. He has not pitched well at all since August 1st. Even in the last couple of starts, he's even been worse than that. But lately, he's a field pitcher, and right now, Kyle Lewis does not have the field of pitches that he needs.
All right, from Miller Park tonight in Milwaukee, game 1 of this 3-game series, the Reds and the Brewers. We'll step aside. When we come back, Jim Day will tell us why Red center fielder Billy Hamilton loves playing the Milwaukee Brewers.
Ford dealer. Ford, go further. Cincinnati USA Regional Tourism Network. Stay close to CincinnatiUSA.com. And by Skyline Chili. Feeling good? It's Skyline time. Roof closed here at Miller Park as the Reds and Brewers set to do battle in the first of three. I'm Jim Day on the field just outside of the Reds dugout. Billy Hamilton, as we know, not known as a power hitter, but don't tell that to the Milwaukee Brewers, or don't tell that to him on the road. Has not only one home run in this ballpark, that one from the left-hand side, not two in this ballpark from the left-hand side, but how about one from the right-hand side? 3 home runs he has hit this season at Miller Park. And you got to have a little dance afterwards, of course. And he's our subject of our IGS Bringing the Energy. And look at these numbers because, boy, the baseball is just a funny game because on the road, just under 300 average, 18 doubles, those 3 home runs, 25 runs driven in, and 30 stolen bases. At home, his average is just 219 in the hitter-friendly Great American Ballpark. Go figure. Billy Hamilton hopes those numbers continue, and the Reds hope that they continue their roll. They've won 3 straight, trying to play the spoiler role against Kyle Loesch and the Milwaukee Brewers. First pitch lineups are next.
Well, those fans are riveted with the action of one Chris Welsh.
They're some kind of excited, aren't they? I mean, I didn't want to get them too fired up for fear that we'd have a problem, but sometimes I'm getting a thumbs up, rarely, mostly thumbs down. But hey, Brian Price has got thumbs up right now after having won 3 out of the last 4 ball games against the Cubs or against the St. Louis Cardinals. He takes this show on the road to see if he can't do a little damage in Milwaukee here as the Milwaukee Brewers now 4 games back, trying to eke their way back into the standings and really try to be a little bit closer to first place in this division. And they'll do it tonight against the Reds with Kyle Loesch, 35-year-old right-hander on the mound.
Loesch 12-9 in the year with a 3.85 ERA, and he pumps a strike in there to Billy Hamilton. And this game from Miller Park with the roof closed, as Jim Day mentioned earlier, is underway. Loesch gets another one in there for strike 2. Here's a look at Loesch. In terms of his numbers, his 29th start of the year
His next start will be his 30th, and that'll mean 10 years in his career, and this is 17th big league career, 14th big league year that he will have reached 30 starts in a season. He comes in with 175 and a third innings pitched and an ERA of 3.85. Billy Hamilton, who has been struggling. You saw the graphic Jim Day put up there about on the road versus at home. 298 on the road, 219 at home, but right about that 219 mark or so since the All-Star break for Billy Hamilton. Did have a hit yesterday. In fact, led off the first inning against the Cardinals, and Lance Lynn with a base hit into left field. He'll be followed by Negron and Frazier here in the top of the first. Reds come in at 70 and 77. Milwaukee at 76 and 71. They find themselves in third place in the Central Division, 4 games behind the Cardinals, a game and a half behind second place Pittsburgh, and right now 1.5 out of the wild card spot. The Giants lead the National League wild card, then Pittsburgh, then Milwaukee a game and a half back. Atlanta is 2 back for Ron Renicke's club. Ron in his 4th year here as the skipper of the Milwaukee team. There's Jerry Narron, the former manager of the Reds, his bench coach. Chased by the veteran Aramis Ramirez, but he will not get to that as it's into the stands. Boy, oh boy. You talk about winter weather in September up here, Chris Wells.
Came in a hurry, didn't it? They said just a few days ago it was 75 degrees and it was in the low 40s this morning when you walked out to get a cup of coffee about 7 or 8 this morning. So summer goes by quick and winter comes early.
You may have been out at 7 a.m. getting coffee. I wasn't. Into center field. Gomez first came in, now goes back, gets that line drive, and that's the way this one starts. Take a look at the Reds lineup for this evening's game, brought to you by Meyer. Hamilton, Negron gets the start at third and in the 2 spot. Did not start at all against St. Louis. Then Frazier, Bruce, Phillips, and Heisey, 4, 5, and 6. Then Brian Pena catches. Zach Cozart bats 8th, and Daniel Corsino bats 9th and gets his first big league start here tonight. Here is Negron. He not only did not start against the Cardinals, did not play at all in that St. Louis series. In fact, he only had 3 at-bats in the entire 7-game homestand, of which the Reds won 4. Negron starts the game at .243 with 4 homers, a dozen RBIs, but 1 hit in his last 16 times up. Ramirez in at third, and Negron gives this ball a jolt into center field. Gomez going back. That ball is gone off the wall, straightaway center. There's the sprint by Christopher Negron, his 5th home run of the year, and the Reds break in front 1-0 here in the first. That's the 22nd home run given up by Loesch this year.
Boy, oh boy, Chris Negron, this must feel awfully good because he gets this ball right on the sweet spot. Ball will carry here, especially with the roof closed. As cold as it is outside, it doesn't matter, and that is way up on that backstop right there as Kyle Loesch sees it and can't believe it.
Number 5 for Negron. Reds came in this into this series middle of the National League pack in terms of home runs, but as Chris alluded to, the Brewers have given up a lot of home runs this year. In fact, that is the 160th home run they have given up, the most in the major leagues, not just the National League, but in the big leagues. They list the temperature outside here at game time at 53. Inside Miller Park at 66. You see, though, folks wearing sweatshirts, wearing coats. For the most part, long sleeves. There's a blanket young lady was bringing in. I think they're going to a Packers game. Line drive over the glove of the shortstop Segura. out into left field on a base hit for Todd Frazier.
Now, right now, you would describe the offerings of Kyle Lohse up there as not very crisp. For those that have watched the Brewers over the last couple of weeks and seen their slide, a lot of it has to do with their starting pitching. They went through 6 times in the rotation where the starting pitcher didn't get past the 5th inning. So that is a problem right there. And one of the problems of speculation is that they're just plumb tired. And Lohse, when I'm looking at his breaking ball, which is normally a sharp slider, it's not there tonight, kind of rolling up there. And he doesn't have the fastball to just kind of rear back and let it fly.
I know he's had a little bit of a right ankle situation that forced him to miss a start in the middle of August. But when you look at the last 2 times he's gone out there, his ERA is over 11.
Well, that's a short sample, but certainly indicates a trend. And when a pitcher like Lohse goes through a period like that, he's got to be his own pitching coach. Here you see the attempt of a breaking ball, a big curveball, and just kind of rolling up there right now. You know, he's a pro. He's been around a long time. He was originally drafted back in 1996 by the Chicago Cubs. And you have a hard time finding other players that were drafted that year who are still active in the major leagues.
Here's what we're talking about in terms of the highest ERA in the big leagues since August the 1st. And there's Kyle Lohse right below Trevor May of Minnesota. That covers 6 starts for Lohse. Back this way and right below the Reds radio booth off to our right.
That noise you heard was Marty Brennaman diving under the counter.
You know, I think the person that was most excited when you were hollering "Let's go Reds" was Marty next door. He was getting a big old kick out of it.
You know what? He does get a kick out of that. In fact, he encourages it a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
I do that in a lot of stadiums.
Bruce out in front of this, pops it up. Jeanette will make the play. That's the second out of the inning. Take a look at the Brewers defensively, brought to you by your Ford dealers. They have in the outfield recently acquired Gerardo Parra out in left field. He has not worn a Brewers uniform since playing the Reds. Gomez in center, Braun in right. Aramis Ramirez, Gene Segura, Scooter Jeanette, Jonathan Lucroy third to first. Martin Maldonado catches Lohse tonight with Lucroy playing first base. So here's Phillips. Scored what turned out to be the only run of the game yesterday afternoon. Throw to first with a pickoff, and there's a throw to second. It's safe. Is Todd Frazier.
Well, it looked like Jonathan Lucroy. Now, Lucroy is normally the catcher. He's playing first base tonight because first base has been somewhat of a black hole for the Brewers. And you would normally think that, hey, a catcher back there, but it looks like he just had a hard time getting the ball out of his glove and creating a throwing angle. Scooter Jeanette never really came out in front of second base and gave Lucroy a spot to throw the ball. So Lucroy had to wait a moment because he was a little bit late getting to second base, and that's the reason why he was safe. Also on that play, kind of unusual actually to see the second baseman cover. Normally it's a shortstop, but he's pulled way around. You see where the shortstop Segura is playing. Well, he was there before that play was made anyway.
An opportunity now for Phillips with a runner at second and 2 out to add to what is a 1-0 lead for Cincinnati here in the top of the first. 20th of the year for Frazier in terms of stolen bases. He does become, because his position has been mostly third base this year, you can kind of stretch this and say he becomes the 3rd player in Reds history at third base. Aaron Boone, Chris Sabo, now Todd Frazier to have at least 20 home runs, 20 RBIs in a season, although all of those homers and steals have not come as a third baseman. Phillips in the air, shallow right. Jeanette drifts out, better angle. Second baseman makes the play. Phillips gone, and the inning is over. But Christopher Negron, straightaway center against Kyle Lohse, and the Reds jump in front in the top of the first, 1-0. Giving the Reds a 1-0 lead as we play to the bottom of the first inning. Ron Renicky in his 4th year as the skipper of this Milwaukee club. Here's a lineup that he represents tonight. Brought to you by Meyer, Carlos Gomez, Scooter Gennett, then Jonathan Lucroy. Big average against the Reds this season. Aramis Ramirez, Ryan Braun, and Gerardo Parra. Bottom 3, Martin Maldonado, Gene Segura, and Kyle Loesch against this young man, 24 years old, out of the Dominican, Daniel Corsino.
Well, Daniel Corsino was 6 years old when Kyle Loesch signed his first professional contract and threw his first professional pitch. Corsino gets to face him tonight. Those are the numbers on Corsino between AA and AAA. He was in AA last year along with AAA. In fact, he was only 22 years old in AAA. Had a little bit of a bad season last year. This year came around a little bit more, and we're hoping to see something good out of Corsino.
Right-hander starts with a breaking ball. Gomez tries to hold up and cannot in the first pitch strike.
Not a bad idea right there, really, because the Brewers are #1, a first pitch hitting team and a fastball hitting team.
Look at that cut by Carlos Gomez. I mean to tell you, he does not get cheated.
That's like a softball swing. You know what? You ever been to one of those softball games where everybody's hitting them over the light towers?
Yeah,
That's the kind of swings you see.
We see those exhibitions go on, and sometimes at Great American Ballpark. Those guys come in after the games and do that.
Those guys are all roided up.
They can hit the ball a long way, I'll tell you that.
Swinging hard, you better believe it.
That one bounces in there for him, Corsino. You mentioned earlier that he turned 24 years old on August the 26th. That is when he made his big league debut at home against the Cubs with a perfect inning of work with a couple of strikeouts. This is appearance in the big league for him #3. He's going to get an out on the first batter he faces in his first big league start as Phillips throws out Carlos Gomez for out #1. Take a look at the Reds defensively, brought to you by your Ford dealers. Behind this 24-year-old Daniel Corsino. In the outfield, it's Heise in left in this game. Hamilton in center, Bruce in right. Negron, Cozart, Phillips, Frazier third to first. The batter is Corsino and Pena. Ryan Price was asked before the game if Pena is catching because he's Latin from Cuba and Corsino is from the Dominican. He said, well, maybe a little bit. But he said mostly because Pena was supposed to start yesterday, but was scratched due to illness. So Mesoraco caught Cueto. Pena feeling better today. He's in there giving Mesoraco a break. First pitch ball now to Gennett. Next one he jams him. And this one has popped up. Cozart handles it, 2 out.
Boy, these are big swings these first two Brewers are doing. I mean, Gennett, he's no big guy. He's trying to hit the ball out of the center field part of the ballpark with a swing like that. That is so counterproductive and against the type of game that would keep him among the elite players in the major leagues. If he can get there, is a swing like that.
2 batters and 2 out. And here's Jonathan Lucroy, who mentioned getting the start at first base in this game. 300 average with 13 homers. He's driven in 64.
That's the best fastball we've seen Corsino throw since he's been up here at 91.
You mentioned he made that start, appearance rather, on his birthday, the 26th, against the Cubs. He's appeared one other time. That was against the Mets on September the 5th. He gets himself a 1-2-3 inning here and a ground ball to Phillips. Nice first inning work for Corsino. 15 All-Star tickets by becoming a Reds season ticket holder with plans starting under $9 per seat. Make sure you're here for all the excitement when the All-Star Game, the Home Run Derby, the Fan Fest, and much more returns to the Queen City. If you'd like information on guaranteeing your All-Star tickets, call 513-765-7500 or visit Reds.com/2015. Daniel Corsino taking a big, deep breath in that dugout, saying, okay, good. Got that first inning under my belt. Ready to go at it again. He gets Heisey to start the second, does Kyle Loesch. Trying to add to a 1-0 Reds lead. Heisey, then Pena, then Cozart. This one popped up. Lucroy looks at Maldonado, calls him off, makes the play in foul ground for out number one.
Yeah, really, if you're going to face Kyle Loesch, you have to really believe that he is going to try to get you out with off-speed stuff. Get ahead of you with fastballs, work a fastball here and there, maybe just off the plate, tease you with a little bit. But his bread and butter pitches now are all off-speed pitches. So the more patient that you can be, especially when you're behind in the count, the better off you will be.
Here's Brian Pena. Mentioned missed the game yesterday due to illness. He was a late scratch. Normally he is the guy that catches Johnny Cueto, but it was Mesoraco yesterday when Cueto picked up victory number 18. Pena in there today. Daniel Corsino's first big league start, third big league appearance. Pena starts at .259 with 5 home runs, driven in 25. Now he gets ahead, 2 balls and a strike. Brian had a pretty good homestand. Mets in the Cardinals series, combined 8 hits, 23 at bats. Takes what he believes is a borderline call. Dan Isagna says strike, so it's 2-2. Pena can't believe it. He certainly think that is low. Jammed here, hits this ball pretty well to right, but Braun back and to his right makes the play to retire Brian Pena.
You know, it did sound like he got jammed a little bit, even looked like it, but the ball carries almost to the wall in right center field. Strong guy, Brian Pena.
Well, you mentioned that the ball carries better here because the roof is closed.
I do think the ball carries very well here. People say this is a good pitch to park the pitch in. I think this is a big-time offensive park. In fact, if you talk to hitters around the league, I think they would rather hit here than they would even in Great American Ballpark. Here, you know that you're always going to play. There's never going to be a rain delay. It's never going to be 38 degrees and raining here. And when it's scorching hot, they'll also sometimes close the roof, even though if it's not air conditioned, they'll give you a little bit of reprieve from the beating sun. But that's not all that often here in Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
So you're saying even when the roof is open, it's a pretty good place to hit.
It absolutely is, yeah. The only time that it's a difficult place is when it's difficult to see. You see that during day games where there's a panel of windows along the right field line up above the stands. And when those babies are open and the sun comes through there, it is a very difficult, it has a lot of glare in this ballpark. But other than that, it's a good place to hit.
Now, I remember what you're talking about, and I think the last time the Reds were here, they have tried to alleviate that by closing the one side until that shadow is all the way over the field to hopefully eliminate what you're talking about.
Could be.
There's a different configuration. Ozark strikes out. First of the game for Kyle Loesch. Reds go in order from the top of the second. He goes in the second. We mentioned he made his debut on August the 26th in Cincinnati against the Cubs. He worked the ninth inning of that game. It was a 3-0 Cubs win. First got Wellington Castillo, then the former Red Valleca, and then Chris Coughlin on this fly ball to left. So 1, 2, 3 in his big league debut on his birthday with a couple of strikeouts. He and Brian Pena pretty happy about that. We'll get the middle now of the Milwaukee order here in the bottom of the second. Aramis Ramirez, Ryan Braun, Gerardo Parra. Ramirez at .298 with 14 long ones, 64 runs batted in. Again, it looks like he is jammed there as that ball goes in the air to left center. Billy Hamilton is there. So 4 faced, 4 retired against Corsino. They'll deal with Ryan Braun. Time now for you to tweet your photo using hashtag #OhioFanPhoto for a chance to have it shown in an upcoming game broadcast. Brought to you by AT&T. Reminder that a little bit later on we'll have tonight's AT&T fan photo of the game. One out for Ryan Braun. Braun back into the lineup for the Brewers last night. He sat out the games Tuesday and Wednesday, games 2 and 3 of that Miami series. With ongoing right thumb soreness. In fact, he was in there last night and hit a home run against Nathan Eovaldi. His 19th of the year. This one into left field. Heising into the corner, and he'll get there. That sounded better off the bat than it turned out to be. Chris ended up having more room than it looked like he might on that fly ball.
I really thought that ball was sounded the way it sounded coming off the bat, the way that Ryan Braun looked at it. I thought it was going into the seats.
I agree.
That ball just went up there and died. Of course, it was an off-speed pitch. So, and he got it on the end of the bat a little bit, it looks like. Right down there in the corner, not even really very deep into the warning track. Definitely an end of the bat shot.
A fly to center, fly to left. Now it's Gerardo Parra. Seen Parra a long time Arizona Diamondback. He was acquired by the Brewers on the 31st of July for an outfielder, Mitch Haniger, and a left-handed pitcher, Anthony Banda. 2-time Gold Glove winner, 1 in left, 1 in right. Parra overall on the year at .266 with 8 home runs. Better than that with this team in terms of an average. He's over 300 at .302. That one tipped off the glove of Corsino. Going to be a tough play for Phillips, but he makes it on the throw to Frazier. A 1-4-3 putout. And for the second inning in a row, Corsino, a 1-2-3 frame. Through 2. 1-0 in favor of the Reds. Take a look at that play again. It tipped off the glove of Corsino, but Phillips with a Third inning baseball from Miller Park as Kyle Loesch faces his counterpart Daniel Corsino. This will be the first big league at bat for his 24-year-old right-hander. Bats him like he throws him, and how about that? A base hit up the middle on the second pitch he sees in his first big league at bat. Daniel Corsino, he must have a rabbit's foot or a lucky charm in his pocket.
You know what you do? You take good advice from a guy like Johnny Cueto, and I'm sure he did. Cueto probably said hit it right through the middle. The pitcher is always the worst fielder in the infield. So they're going to flip that ball to Paul Lessard. And he'll put it away for safekeeping. What Daniel Corsino doesn't know, they're going to take another baseball. It looks like a game ball. Now they're going to scratch it up, and they're going to write all over it and write notes and funny faces and so on. And then at the end of the game, they'll flip it to him and say, hey, here's your first Major League base hit ball. And he'll see it all defaced. Get
big
worried.
Frown on his face.
Yep. Right before he starts tearing up, they'll give him the real ball.
I guess what they'd really like to do is give him two. That one and one for his first win tonight.
That would be very nice.
Hamilton and a ball and a strike. Jim Day talking earlier about the fact that Billy Hamilton has had all of his power success by and large against this Milwaukee team. He has 6 home runs on the year, 4 against the Brewers, 3 here at Miller Park. One of those, his only right-handed home run came here.
Yeah, he's been struggling lately, Billy has. You know, you go last 9 ball games, he's 3 for 27, has not stolen a base over that period of time. But what better place than come alive to where you are 10 for 25 with 3 home runs so far this year in only 6 games. That would be right here at Miller Park.
You mentioned the optimum number yesterday, and that is when he was at his best this year in the month of June is when the Reds played their best baseball.
Now, you hate to put that kind of pressure on Billy Hamilton because he is a rookie. But that's the bottom line, really.
Toward the right of the shortstop, Segura. They get it out at second, but there is no way, I mean no way, they're going to turn 2 on that ball hit by Billy Hamilton.
It's a good trade-off right there for the Reds, obviously. You get the pitcher back in the dugout to sit down a little bit, and you get the speediest man in baseball on first base.
Hard to believe they list Billy Hamilton as the second toughest to double up in the National League behind the Mets' Curtis Granderson.
How do they do that?
I don't know.
Well, there's got to be a formula. I don't think it's anybody's opinion.
No. Corsino forced 6-4. Hamilton aboard.
Probably the number of times you're in a double play opportunity and whether you hit into it or not. Simple, straightforward. Maybe you can get to look that up tomorrow. While we are out braving the elements, you can look that up and give me a full report tomorrow night.
Does that mean you're golfing in the morning?
Indeed.
What's the foursome look like?
Well,
certainly none of the group from today are going again, are they?
I think Marty and Cowboy will be there.
Hamilton gets a pretty good jump. Here's the throw, but he is going to be gunned down. What a great throw by Martin Maldonado.
I don't believe that's the first time that Maldonado has thrown out Billy Hamilton. And believe me when I tell you that there is nobody in this league behind the plate with a stronger arm than Martin Maldonado. I mean, on a scouting scale between 5 and 8, he rates out an 8 on his arm. They don't think he's ever going to hit very much. But you talk about a backup catcher with a gun, Martin Maldonado had him dead to rights from here to there.
I mean, that was a laser to the second baseman, Jeanette, who took the throw. Brian Price is going to come out, so he's going to discuss it here with Quinn Wolcott, the second base umpire, as he looks into the dugout. Let's see what Jay Price says. He said, no, forget about it. He did look out with a naked eye.
You know, in a situation like that, do you ever think the umpire looks at the manager and says, see, I told you. He was out.
Not if he doesn't want to get reprimanded later on, because you can guarantee that the manager would report that to the Major League Baseball office, don't you think? I think he would.
Well, you could be kidding. Be like a tattletale if you did that, though. Would you do that if you were an umpire?
Would I say that to the manager? Absolutely not. Wow, tip by Negron, held on to by Maldonado. Strikeout by Loesch, and the inning is over. State preps for Saturday's game against Kent State. Brian Price talks about the role his team will play for the rest of the regular season. Plus, how are the Bengals planning to defend the Falcons' passing attack this coming Sunday? Get involved and get complete coverage of all of today's action involving Ohio sports on FoxSportsOhio.com. Glad you're with us on this Friday night from Miller Park here in Milwaukee. Reds lead 1-0 on a first-inning home run by Christopher Negron, and 2 innings with a perfect baseball by 24-year-old Daniel Corsino. A couple years ago, Corsino in 2012 was 8-8 at AA with a 3.01 ERA. Went into the 2013 season as the number 4 prospect in the Reds organization. And that's when he pitched in AAA for the first time and really experienced defeat and adversity for the first time.
Well, there really aren't all that many 22-year-olds at the AAA level, especially starting pitchers. You know, AAA is where you get a lot of experienced minor league players. You know, you get 30, 35-year-old players that are on their way up and down. You got experience there, and you know that's where you really learn to pitch if you're 22 years old, like Daniel Corsino last year. And he's an entirely different pitcher from what we've seen so far this year than what we saw even just a couple of years ago in spring training. I mean, forever, since he was signed as a 17-year-old in 2008, he has been compared to Johnny Cueto.
Yeah, they called him Little Cueto, didn't they?
And the same build, 5'11", 210 pounds.
Negron does a nice job to cut that ball off. 7 up, 7 down.
And the interesting thing for me is that even when we saw Daniel Corsino pitching down in the minor leagues in spring training, it's the only time I've seen him pitch live. I mean, he was dialing the fastball up in the low to mid-90s. He's no longer anywhere near that right now. I don't know what has happened, whether he's changed his style or whether he just simply lost his fastball. But, you know, he's topping out at 90, 91 right now. But he might be a better pitcher overall. He's got a lot better idea of a changeup. He's got good command of his breaking ball. And let's face it, this is all about location up here anyway. I mean, unless you're, even if you're old as Chapman, I mean, you can't throw it right down the middle every time.
Right.
So
we've seen the results of that.
I would much rather see a guy like Corsino, who at 24 has got a chance to still add a little bit more to his fastball as he gets older. Be able to locate his breaking stuff right now. learn how to pitch in the major leagues this year, and realize that his stuff is good enough to get big league hitters out. That will help his confidence soar and help the organization by having another pitcher in the wings.
Well, he's always had, hasn't he, walk issues. You know, this year, 1 every 2 innings, basically, at AA. But we've not seen any sign of that here in the appearances that he's made for the Reds. As I say that, he falls behind 3-0.
Right on his cue.
Yeah. After losing 14 games at AAA last year, he spent all of this year, save his last appearance, at AA Pensacola.
And he did, along with one other pitcher, throw the first ever no-hitter. And in Pensacola for the Blue Wahoos, that was in 2012. And just in case you're interested, the word Corsino in Spanish means young deer, like fawn. Good looking pitch there on a 3-1 count. How many 24-year-olds can come up here and throw a little slider when you're in a hitter's count like that? Gene Segura was leaving his shoes behind in this swing, and he got fooled mightily.
So your daughter, who celebrated her birthday recently, you could call her Corsino. She's a young deer. D-E-A-R. Frazier in foul ground will make the play on that one. Segura retired.
You're getting clever on me.
You could call her Corsino.
Yeah,
hello,
absolutely.
Corsino. And she'd say, you mean D-E-E-R or D-E-A-R?
She knows enough Spanish, I think, that she'll probably call me on that one.
That's good research right there.
Thank you.
8 up, 8 down by Corsino. He'll deal now with his counterpart, Kyle Loesch. Swung a pretty good bat this year. He has 7 hits, a career 149 hitter. Brian Price asked about how long Corsino may pitch today, seeing that his 2 appearances in the big leagues both have been out of the bullpen. That is a foul ball, close, but a foul ball past third. Brian Price answered with the fact that he had threw 94 pitches in a 5-inning outing on the 31st of August in his last start of the season. That was at AAA, so we're talking less than 2 weeks ago. He says he's not out there for the duration, but he can be in there between 90 and 100 pitches tonight. Lowe strikes out. That is the first strikeout for Corsino, and he has gone through the order of the Brewers. Box level or so here at Miller Park. You can see they have a good Friday night crowd on hand. The Reds and the Brewers in the first game of this 4-game series. Chris, I made a mistake yesterday afternoon in the broadcast at home against the Cardinals. I know you find that hard to believe.
Impossible.
I said yesterday that it was Tom Brennaman's birthday.
You're right, because I text Tom a happy birthday message, and I was corrected to find out that his birthday is actually today.
Today.
So,
yes.
Tom Brennaman, wherever you are in San Diego, getting ready to call the Chargers game, wherever that may be, we wish you a very wonderful happy birthday.
Yeah, I was a little premature in that celebration, so today we say happy birthday.
I just know you're just excited about it.
I was.
Understand.
Yeah.
Can happen.
Thank you for the understanding ear. We appreciate that. Todd Frazier leads things off here in the 4th inning. A base hit into left center. His first time. Means he has a hit now in 6 of the last 8 Reds games. Maldonado and Ramirez, and the veteran Ramos Ramirez will handle that. So the leadoff man is retired here in the top of the 4th inning. Lowe's ready to deliver a little too quickly there to Jay, who requested and is granted time. He popped up his first time. As Brewers play this game here tonight, keep their eye on the scoreboard, as do their fans watching first the Cubs-Pirates game, which is in the top of the 6th inning in Pittsburgh. The Pirates lead that one 4-2. Cardinals are playing at home tonight against the Colorado Rockies. That is a 3-0 early Cardinal lead against the Rockies after 2. Matt Holliday has homered in that game. Pitching matchup in that one is Adam Wainwright against Jorge De La Rosa. Early home run by Matt Holliday. Loose on a 2-2 is a strikeout victim. That's the second out of the frame. Take a look at the National League wild card standings, courtesy of DirecTV. You see San Francisco and Pittsburgh at the top. Pittsburgh is in the position that the Reds were at the end of the year last year, the second wild card, meaning if things stayed that way, San Francisco would host the wild card game. These Brewers a game and a half back. Atlanta 2 back in the wild card. Braves playing interleague baseball tonight down in Texas, where they are leading 1-0 after 3 against the Rangers. Segura will play this ball. And the Reds are finished here in the 4th. They go down in order for the second time in 4 innings. Take a look at today's storylines brought to you by Elk. Serious lawyers for serious injuries. Call 1-800-ELK Ohio. Take a look at the most days in first place without making the playoffs since division play started in 1969. The Tigers, the Mets, the Cubs, of course, the infamous 69 Cubs, 155 days in first place. These Milwaukee Brewers have been in first place most of this year. They do not want to join this list, just to make that clear. 150 days right now in first place, and right now they are on the outside looking in, not only the division lead, but the postseason as well. Ron Renicky took the Brewers, of course, to the NLCS 3 years ago in 2011 after winning the National League Central Division, the first division title for Milwaukee as a National League team, and their first since way back in '82. They won the American League, lost to the Cardinals in the World Series.
You know, we got a shot of Ron Renicky there. How many sleepless nights do you think he had during that stretch? Because managers, you know, like nobody else, they live with the wins and the losses of their ball club. They're writing out the lineup. They're making the pitching changes. They're trying to stop the bleeding when you go into a spot like that. And this time of year, you pick up the newspaper or the magazines and look on the internet and you see all the compilation of all the worst collapses in the history of baseball. You know, going all the way back to the Phillies of the early 60s. And you don't want to be on that list.
No.
And he's thinking, well, what can I do differently?
Ball gets away. Pena's throw gets away. Down the right field line it goes. And into second base will go Carlos Gomez. That throw from Pena seemed to sail right into the body of Frazier, and Brian Price is going to come out.
Well, he's going to make sure that Carlos Gomez runs in the foul side of that line right there, and he doesn't go in front and make the player change his throw or the ball hit the runner. And I'm not so sure that they're going to get that call to go the Reds' way right there. Todd Frazier right now kind of pointing to the line saying, hey, about 10 feet in front of home plate, it looked like Carlos Gomez moved over that line.
What did you think?
I don't think that he did it, because I think the way the rule is stated, and I have to look back and see the actual language, but I think if he hits the runner and he's in that fair territory, he's out. Or if you have to alter your throw, he doesn't even have to hit the runner. And I don't think that Brian Pena did either that time. In fact, Pena really, in retrospect, probably would have been better just to stick that ball in his pocket. So a strikeout, a wild pitch, and an error.
And a runner, tying run, in scoring position to start the fourth inning. That's the first time the Brewers have had a base runner.
Well, Cozart had Carlos Gomez, so far off second base that Corsino had the confidence to just turn and throw. He'd have had him out by 6 feet.
And we'll see him from the stretch for the first time in this game against Scooter Gennett. Gennett popped one up to the shortstop his first time. He has been the everyday second baseman for this team now for a little bit over a year. Basically the second half of last year and all of this year. In case you missed the news earlier, we came on the air with the news that 2 more Reds players have gone down due to injury. Tonight's starter Matt Latos scratched with a bone bruise in his right elbow. Although Brian Price was quick to point out prior to the game that, and Matt Latos for that matter, if you happen to tune in and watch the pregame show, he talked about it. He's hoping he'll miss 1 start and be back. Brian Price said at this point right now, there's nothing that leads us to believe he won't be back. We'll wait and see. Again, there's only 15 games remaining. 2 weeks from this Sunday, final game of the season. That'll move the runner along as Phillips will throw Jeanette out. For out number 1. And then Skip Schumacher. You remember late in spring training, he dove for the ball in left center field at Goodyear. Dislocated his left shoulder. Started the season on the disabled list. And really has not been right all year. And then right before the All-Star break, banged into the right field wall. You recall against the Cubs going for a fly ball. Gave himself a concussion. Re-injured the shoulder. Finally just couldn't bear it any longer. Ended up having left shoulder surgery on the labrum. And they're hoping to get a kind of a head start on that these final 2 weeks of the year.
Okay. From what I understand, not going to be a major labrum surgery, not like it's completely torn and he's a pitcher that's going to be out 12 months.
Right.
So you do it now as soon as you can. And you hope that he's better and come back and be ready for next year. He signed a 2-year deal with the Reds, so he's got 1 more year left to go.
And then on the heels of Homer Bailey recently having surgery.
And keeping Dr. Kremchek busy this year.
Yeah, on his flexor mass. Dylan Axelrod going out, more likely for the rest of the year, with the oblique strain the other day at home. Base hit in the right by Luke Croy, and the game is tied.
That is so classic Jonathan Luke Croy right there. You bring the infield in, you don't want to give up a run in a 1-run game. And he just waits back and strokes it to right field like that's what he wanted. How about our Mazda pitch by pitch in this at bat? Strike with a fastball right there, and just same spot, same speed, and you can't do that to a hitter as good as Jonathan Lucroy. 300 hitter, lines it to right field, and picks up the tying RBI. Of course, it's a shame that the Brewers were able to get that runner on in the first place. Got on there with a wild pitch strikeout.
Yeah, by all accounts, it should have been a 2-out single to right by Lucroy with nobody on, but the strikeout, the wild pitch, the throwing arrow by Pena, all that allowed Gomez to reach second base. Jeanette moved him up. Lucroy gets him in. They're a little sensitive to pitches inside here in Milwaukee these days after what happened here last night against Miami.
They had a major problem last night. Giancarlo Stanton, the very talented slugger from the Miami Marlins, was hit flush in the face with a fastball from Mike Byers last night and dropped at home plate. Lost so much blood at home plate that they had to bring the grounds crew out and scoop up the blood and the soiled dirt and then replace that with other dirt that they brought in a wheelbarrow. So it was just a very bad scene. As it turns out, I guess the word on Stanton today was much better than people had even anticipated, that he's not going to need surgery, but he probably is done for the rest of the year. We wish him all the best, because Giancarlo Stanton, one of the bright spots in Major League Baseball.
Going to be handled by Heisey for the second out. In case you don't know what we're talking about or didn't see it, and we'll show it to you, but beware now, if you're a little queasy, you might want to look away. This was last night in the 5th inning against Miami. Flush on the left jaw / cheek area. But as you said, Chris, the good news is today he did return to Miami. They do not feel like he's going to need surgery. In fact, they have not ruled out his returning this year.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That is exceptional news right there, because you don't want to see that happen to anybody in any sport. Just a very, very scary moment. Now, what happened on that play, believe it or not, that was called a strike, because the umpire at first base, I guess umpire, maybe they checked first base. They thought that he went around, so they called it a strike. The next batter comes up, He gets hit on the hand on a check swing, which they also call a strike, and then the bench is empty. So it got ugly here at Miller Park last night. No punches were thrown. A couple of players thrown out of the game. Casey McGee, former Brewer, was one of the players thrown out of the ball game. And the manager of the Marlins was also tossed. But fortunately, nothing went beyond that.
Now, Mike Redmond, the manager of the Marlins, he's been involved in some situations this year, hasn't he? One with the Reds, and now this one here last night.
We saw him down in Miami in probably the most controversial call of the year.
No question.
As far as review goes. And he just went off on those umpires that day, and he was mighty angry again last night. But who wouldn't be after seeing your star player laying there in a pool of blood?
Yeah, it wasn't the incident with Stanton that got everybody fired up. It was the next pitch that Fiers threw, and nobody felt worse about it than Mike Fiers afterwards.
Well, Fiers actually got fined.
Yeah.
But evidently he got fined not for the pitch that got away from him that hit either Stanton or the next batter, but he was fined for comments that he made, I guess, towards the Marlins dugout or whatever he said afterwards.
He was claiming today in the comments that I read that they were antagonizing him, and he didn't understand that because he wanted them to clearly understand he was not throwing at either one of these guys.
Temper's flying. Remember that the Marlins still, they're still in the fringe of the race, thinking that they've got a chance to be in the wild card. Today they're 5.5 games out of the wild card in the National League.
Through it all, the Brewers did win that game last night 4-2 to give them 2 wins in a row, to allow them to split that 4-game series with Miami. But still in all, they've lost 16 of their last 21 games and have gone from a 6.5 game lead in the National League Central on July the 1st to right now, as they enter play today, a 4-game deficit. And they have gained 2 games in 2 days because the Reds defeated the Cardinals, and they were winning 2 games in a row here. A wild one uncorked by Corsino. He's going to send Lucroy down to second.
Yeah, he has thrown several pitches tonight that have nearly gotten away from Brian Pena. I mean, really missed his mark. He almost reminds you a little bit of Edinson Volquez in that way. That, Volquez on a certain night can be right around the plate, right in the corners, making perfect pitches, and all of a sudden uncork a couple and go to the screen. I don't know whether he's a little bit nervous here with the runners on base or what's going on, but a deep breath, 2-2 count on Ryan Braun, time to relax out there and not get nervous.
Corsino was able to get Braun on a fly ball to center his first time. He's sitting right now at 46 pitches. Tries to get through the 4th inning. Retired the first 9 Brewers he faced. Should have had 10 in a row with Gomez strikeout, but the ball got away on a wild pitch. And then the throwing error, so Gomez ended up at second. He retired Jeanette. Gives up the hit to Lucroy that ties the game. Now Braun. Into center field. Lucroy being sent. Here's the throw. Not in time. Skipped up a little bit off the mound. Pena grabbed it and dove back toward the plate in an attempt to get Lucroy. Came up a little bit late. The Brewers have taken a 2-1 lead.
The one reason I thought the Reds had a shot right here was this ball was hit like a rocket. Braun goes right up the middle. And normally, even with 2 outs, when that ball is hit as hard as that, here comes Billy Hamilton charging hard, and he's got a good arm, and it's usually on the money. This one is on the money, but it took kind of a funny second skid right there, really slowed down, and that's the difference between getting Lucroy and having him score the go-ahead run.
Good camera work right there. You can see clearly he gets in there. Gerardo Parra will bat now. Give Braun his 80th RBI of the year. Now it's Gerardo Parra. The 2-1 Brewer lead here in the bottom of the fourth. Reds this year have won 7 of 13 against Milwaukee. 2 up here, 5 at home. And the Brewers in town one more time. Frazier right in the way of that line drive by Parra, putting an end to the inning. But the Brewers get 2 and through 4, lead by a run.
He's obviously had a good impact on our ball club, but we just felt like, you know what, until we really checked the shoulder and got in there, we weren't sure how long it would take to do the rehab and recovery, and we decided to be aggressive on it and get a jump start on it, and so we had the procedure done, and we look forward to having him during spring training, hopefully 100% healthy.
I'm Jim Day. That's Brian Price following up on what you guys were talking about, the Skip Schumacher injury, and he didn't want to tell anyone. That's the type of player that Skip Schumacher is. He kept it to himself, but he never got off of a rehab program or a strengthening program on the shoulder all season long. And you guys have talked about it. We've talked about it. Just looked like Skip Schumacher wasn't the same, wasn't driving the ball. And he never told Brian Price, though, that he couldn't go outside of that concussion that he had. He never said, Skipper, I can't go. The ultimate gamer.
And you know, Jim, it was probably, we don't know this for certain, but was probably getting better. And then as he approached the All-Star break, when he banged into the wall out at Great American against the Cubs, probably just pushed him over the edge.
I would agree with that wholeheartedly. And again, I talk to Skip Schumacher all the time, but he kept it close to the vest. And I'd asked him a few times about it, and he just didn't want anyone to know. A lot of players like that don't want people to think they're trying to make an excuse.
Well, we hope that everything went well today, and we look forward to getting Skip back in spring training next year for the Reds.
That would really probably explain why we did not see more of Skip Schumacher, down the line.
Yeah.
Because there were a lot of circumstances where matchups looked like it would be ideal for Schumacher to be out there in left field, and or when even at second base more often when Brandon Phillips was on the disabled list. We didn't see it. I'm sure Brian Price was surprised at the situation with his shoulder. And hey, man, oh man, what a rash of injuries for the Reds this year. That's what I was talking about, really, where once Loesch gets ahead of you, he goes slower, not harder.
Well, the Reds have seen a lot of Loesch since he joined this Milwaukee club last year. Recall he signed late in March, 3-year deal at basically $11 million a year. Last year he made 4 starts against Cincinnati, 2-1 with a 1.88 ERA. This year, this is his 4th go-round against them, 1-1 with a 3 ERA. Gave up the home run ball to Negron and then the base hit to Frazier in the first. Since then, has allowed just 1 other hit. That was by his counterpart Daniel Corsino. Right now set down 6 in a row in 11 of the last 12. Gets ahead of Pena, fly to right his first time.
An interesting note on Kyle Loesch, 35 years old, he was a number 2 draft pick for the Cubs back in 1996, and I said it would be very difficult to find really other players that are still playing that were in that 1996 draft. That, by the way, was the year that, if you remember, the Reds picked Johnny Oliver in the first round. But Loesch is one of 3 major league players, a Native American, part Native, who is not Hispanic, who is part American Indian, and he and his family is from the Namlaki tribe, which is right in the Sacramento Valley area in California.
How you come up with this stuff off the top of your head, I do not know. You're an amazing, you got an amazing memory. You hear something one time and it never goes away.
Usually insignificant things, but I look those things up and I verify them to make sure they're right. And I've known Kyle Loesch for a long time. I always thought that was kind of an interesting note on Kyle.
Remember, he pitched for the Reds parts of the 06 and 07 season. Didn't go overly well as a Red, but it sure did when he went to the Cardinals.
Well,
didn't
you know what? When he came to the Reds, he came over from the Twins, and he was a hard thrower. And on days when he would get that fastball up around 93, 94 miles an hour, you knew that Kyle Loesch was going to have a good game because he was a 4-seam fastball pitcher with a hard slider, and he could get it done that way. Then when he went over to the Cardinals, Dave Duncan took him aside and said, hey, that 4-seam fastball stuff's not going to work anymore. Let's start working your sinker. Let's get that ball down around the knees, and let's use your defense behind you. And he bought into that change, and he can really thank Dave Duncan for turning his career around and really giving him an extra 6 or 7 years of major league pitching. Now he is much better at sinking the ball, using fastballs, changeups, and curveballs more to induce ground balls than to get strikeouts, although a little backdoor slider right there is a perfect location. I mean, his ground ball percentage shot through the roof when he was with the Cardinals, and that made him a completely different pitcher.
You got to wonder if it was just the fact that it was Dave Duncan and the Cardinals, and they had a reputation of helping pitchers, whether it was the fact that he hadn't had a lot of success in the last couple of years and was looking for something to get him going in the right direction, or a combination of both.
I think probably a combination of both, but you know, if the pitcher doesn't buy into it, it's not going to be successful.
That one's hit hard by Cozart, and it drops in front of Parra out in left field for a base hit. So 6 in a row ended on this base hit. Draft players from every Reds game this season with MLB.com's head-to-head challenge app. You and your opponent each select 4 different players, and the person with the most points at the end of each game wins. Head-to-head challenge is free to play, so download today. You got your head-to-head app. You got your Beat the Streak app. A lot of good games to play on MLB.com. Orsino took a wild hack and singled in the center his first time back in the 3rd. He takes a wild one here and misses. He did have 6 hits at Double-A this year. Hits this one hard on a hop. Segura makes the play. They get the force out on Cozart at second, and the inning is over. Fox Sports Ohio is brought to you by the JTM Food Group. Let's create great dishes together. By Toyota. For over 30 Toyota offers, visit buyatoyota.com. And go for the save on Wing Tuesdays at B-Dubs with specially priced wings all day. Buffalo Wild Wings, wings, beer, sports. Roof closed here at Miller Park in Milwaukee. Game time temp outside was in the low 50s, 53 degrees. It was in the low 40s this morning when some of our crew went out and golfed. Jim Day joined Marty Brenneman, Jeff Brantley out on the course. 40s in the low 40s.
I did not go today. I have too much sense for that.
But you're going tomorrow.
I'm going tomorrow with him.
But it's going to be a little bit warmer.
2 degrees warmer.
And that makes for you all the difference in the world.
Yes, those are an important 2 degrees.
So is it Brantley and Brenneman and Day and you?
Correcto. Actually, Day is skipping tomorrow.
He's given a pass? Or
he's taking the day off tomorrow.
Right.
He's a nighttime guy, you know, and
he is.
He relishes his sleep about the time that we get up in the lobby at 6:30. He's snoring away.
So am I. They met at 7:30 this morning. I thought it was an ungodly early hour to go play golf. Seemed like it was dark.
Well, you sound just like Marty Brenneman did years ago, and Joe Nuxhall and I would go out. We'd meet down the lobby. What are you guys getting up that early, chasing that white ball around?
Mm-hmm.
And it beats looking at those 4 walls of that hotel room.
Each his own, buddy.
Of course, at that time of the morning, you're looking at your eyelids.
Yes.
I don't blame you.
God love you all who love that game of golf. I'll take the fuzzy yellow ball anytime.
That would be tennis.
Yes, indeed. Now, I only wish that Hal McCoy still traveled, was able to go out and play tennis, because he's told me some wonderful stories about when he was a traveling beat writer for the Dayton Daily News, and he would go to every city, and he and there were some others that played, apparently. They would hook up line up a tennis court, and off they'd go.
I imagine that Hal had a tennis court in every city in the country.
He said he did.
Yeah, I'm sure he did. And I'm sure they were nice places too.
And he had places, people that he met in the towns, and he'd call them when he got in town, and they'd set up a game.
How do you think Hal ever played with a cigar in his mouth, like Louis Tiant used to take a shower with a cigar? You think Hal McCoy played tennis with a cigar?
I'm only going to say no, because I've seen pictures of Hal playing, and he did not have a cigar in his mouth. He looked a little bit like Jimmy Connors back in the day.
Wow.
A little bit flowing locks.
Hal, you may want to take that and record that moment.
He is left-handed.
Just compared you to Jimmy Connors.
He is left-handed, you know. He was all decked out in his gear, all that tennis gear on, looked sharp.
Daniel Corsino with the strikeout there, looking him out, and Otto made a couple of really nice pitches. And if you can get ahead of Gene Segura, I think Brian Pena knows this, he'll chase that little stuff off the edge of the plate.
Segura having nothing this year like the kind of offensive year he had last year when he was an all-star. Of course, he's gone through some personal tragedy this year with his young daughter passing away. He left the team for a while.
I'll tell you what I see from Daniel Corsino. His delivery looks much more under control now than I remember seeing in spring training. It's a little bit slower, a little bit more deliberate, but it leads itself to being able to repeat it more. For the most part, he is throwing strike after strike after strike. He's not walked the batter. I don't believe he's had all that many 3-ball counts. Of course, getting the 3 balls with the Brewers is a tough thing. These guys come swinging the bats.
They don't like to plant themselves in the box, that's for sure.
Need a strike right here ahead of the pitcher. Do not want to walk that number 8 guy.
Martin Maldonado called out on strikes. Full count pitch here to Segura is strike 3 called. Over the outside edge, back-to-back strikeouts looking by Corsino.
Boy, oh boy, buying into location over speed. Nice little frame job right there, held for an extra moment by Brian Pena.
So 2 out for Loesch. Corsino had 3 1-2-3 innings to get this game started. Brewers scored twice on 2 hits and an error and a wild pitch in the 4th. Now Corsino trying to back that up with a 1-2-3 fifth. Brewers the first stop of a 3-city 9-game road trip for this Reds team. Their final road trip of 2014 that will take them to Chicago Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Open date on Thursday, and then a 3-gamer at Busch Stadium, St. Louis over the weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And then back home for the final 6. These Brewers will start it off with 3, and it closes out with the Pirates for 3. The season ending Sunday, September the 28th. Talked a little bit last week about the fact that the 2015 schedule has come out. The Reds will see this Brewers club early on, both at home and in Milwaukee. In fact, part of the first road trip of the year, they'll be here in Milwaukee. Second homestand of the year, the Brewers will be in town. Close pops up. Fourth, 1-2-3 inning of this game for Daniel Corsino.
For Reds Baseball, Fox Sports Ohio. I'm Jim Day. Billy Hamilton set to lead off this half inning for Cincinnati. Now, everyone's talked about this is the most amount of games that he's ever played in his career. Now, I talked to Billy about hitting the proverbial wall, the rookie wall that everyone hits. Now, he said last year when he came up as a September call-up was the most tired he has ever been in baseball. So much so that throughout the whole season, he was trying to condition himself for September. He was big time worried about hitting that wall this September. And surprisingly, he says he feels great. He's never felt better. He is not physically wearing down at all. I even said, hey, your numbers are down. Is it the fact that you are wearing down a little bit? He said, absolutely not. Scouting report has caught up with me. I need to make adjustments. It has nothing to do with health. I feel great. So that's good to hear that he conditioned himself knowing that September is going to be a tough month for him.
That's good information right there, because naturally people will think, well, he's wearing down because of the fact that the numbers are down in the second half. And if he was as tired as he has ever been last year in September, you would have never known it by the way he ran the bases, by the way he hit. He was phenomenal last September.
Well, he's still an exciting player, and you find out that 6 months is a long grind, especially when the guys around you are getting hurt. They're not always the same people. You're not playing the expectations that you were early in the ball game, and you can't become oblivious to this when you're in the ball club, when you're in the clubhouse every day. I mean, you see the losing streaks, you see the frustration, you see the guys coming in and out of the training room, and it's just one of those things where you kind of get caught up in it. But that young man will be a very, very fine ball player for a long, long time.
Well, he's 0 for 3 tonight for Billy Hamilton. Now 3 for his last 30. You just hope that the slide that he is on in the second half, that is continuing into September, is not going to cost him the Rookie of the Year honor, which I still believe that he deserves based on the way he's played this year.
I do too. I don't even think that's on his mind.
I would agree with you.
In fact, if you talk to him about that, he'd probably look at you quizzically and say, what? Because this guy loves baseball as much as any young player I've ever seen. I mean, he's like one of the first guys out here every day. He's not wrapped up in all the media stuff. He gives you straight answers. He's very quotable, and just a fun young man to be around. I mean, he keeps it as simple as it gets, which is getting out there and playing baseball. And that's what you love about Billy Hamilton. Well, when you compare Billy Hamilton's average In the first half, he had 285, and the Reds' winning percentage was .537. And then in the second half, you see the slide. It's a lot of weight he's carrying this year.
And that's just the offensive side of things. You got to give him a lot of credit on the defensive side because his game has not slipped out there at all. Loesch now has 6 strikeouts in this game. He's allowed the 1 base hit since the third. Only 2 since the first inning.
You know, the only guy that he's thrown fastballs to after he's had 2 strikes on him is Christopher Negron. He struck him out in the third inning on a 1-2 pitch, which was a fastball, and just blazed one by him right there. Everybody else, he goes soft when he gets ahead.
You saw the patch on the side of Kyle Loesch's jersey. It said Bruce. All the Brewers players are wearing that in honor of their scouting director, Bruce Side, who passed away very unexpectedly on the 2nd of September, 10 days ago. He's only 53 years old. There's a sign out in center field honoring him, born in '61, only 53. And it was a tragic passing. Longtime Brewers employee. They miss him mightily, and they are honoring him with a sign out in the outfield and with a patch on their jerseys.
Well, it's one of those sudden shockers that just sets you back. They're 53 years old. It came out of nowhere. Young man he was drafted by the Cubs in 1980, played a couple of minor league years. He was all over the place as far as different scouting jobs, and he was one of the best. And the Brewers try to honor Bruce Side as much as they can with that patch on their uniforms.
Tickets in September thanks to First Student. Cheer on your Red Legs and enjoy up to 4 tickets at half price on select sections for Sunday through Thursday home games during the regular season. For tickets and details, simply call 513-381-REDS or visit reds.com/students. The infamous sausage race here at Miller Park. Who is our winner? The bratwurst, and then he takes a header in celebration.
Oh.
Harder. Look at that swing. Gonna hurt his neck swinging that hard, isn't he? He does not get cheated. That's a Barry Bonds type elbow guard, isn't it, that he's wearing there? You don't move to get out of the way on a pitch inside when you're protected by something like that. What I don't understand, and Brian Price was talking about it today, But all the players that have been hit on the hands this year, and it happens every year, but it seems like there's a lot more of it this year as to why more players don't wear some sort of hand guard. And I'm sure the technology could be much better now than it was back in the Jeff Bagwell days. Remember, he used to wear those guards on his hand to protect against those inside pitches. You don't see anybody wear those things. Orsino gets the leadoff man here in the 6th inning. He's now set down 5 in a row since the RBI single by Ryan Braun.
You know, watching the Brewers and the way they approach their hitting, you know, they've been a good offensive club for the most of the year. They've obviously been stinking the last, 3 weeks, but they swing so hard that I think a guy like Orsino, who's had a lot of different combinations of off-speed stuff, are a real challenge for them because they'll chase. I mean, if you give them something that they can see and that they can think that they can chase, we've seen them chase pitches out of the zone all night long that they had no business at all swinging, and they're playing right into the hands of Daniel Orsino, and he's taking advantage of it.
Well, he gets Jeanette on that line drive, so here he is looking for his 5th 1-2-3 inning in 6 innings of this game if he can retire Jonathan Lucroy. Lucroy, of course, a first-time All-Star this year. Actually went 2 for 2 in the game in a starting role due to the injury to Cardinal catcher Yadier Molina. Second catcher in Brewers franchise history to start the All-Star game. The other back in 1983 was Ted Simmons.
Simba.
Guys talking about long-haired catchers the other night. He certainly was one of them.
Oh, yeah.
Back in his day, boy. He had it flowing. This guy comes into tonight's action leading the National League with 50 doubles. Look how many. 11 more than Paul Goldschmidt, who's out for the year with the injury, and Freddie Freeman at 39. He's only the 3rd player in Brewers franchise history to amass 50 or more doubles in a year. Lyle Overbay at 53. Aramis Ramirez at 50 in 2012. Overbay's is the record at 53. Lucroy appears as if he should probably break that mark. He draws the first walk issued by Daniel Orsino tonight. That will be Aramis Ramirez. Reminder, MLB.TV Premium, the #1 live streaming sports service, is celebrating 12 years. Join the millions of subscribers. Watch every out-of-market game live in true HD on over 400 devices. Visit Reds.com for details. Aramis Ramirez 0 for 2 with a runner aboard, 2 out. Hard to left, but playable. Heisey has it. And a 0 on the board in the bottom of the 6th, hung up by Daniel Orsino. Take a look at our Honda game summary. This is in the first inning. Second batter, Christopher Negron, didn't play at all in the Cardinals series. Gets his 5th home run of the year to give the Reds the early advantage. Carlos Gomez, the first Brewer to reach. That was in the 4th inning. Wild pitch allows him to reach. That throw by Pena, which skips away, allows him to get into scoring position. And then against the drawn-in infield, Jonathan Lucroy drops it out into right to score. Gomez to tie the game. And Ryan Braun, 2 batters later, whistles this ball into center. Lucroy scored. 2-1 Milwaukee as we head into the 7th inning. That's tonight's Honda game summary. Well, this is a breakthrough of sorts for Kyle Lohse tonight based on what has happened for him in the last couple of starts, and really in his last 6 starts, an ERA approaching 8. But tonight, through 6 innings of this game, he's allowed 1 run, 4 hits, has not walked a batter, he's struck out 6. He hasn't gone more than 6 innings in almost 2 months. In fact, the last time he went more than 6 was on the 23rd of July against the Reds in a 5-1 Milwaukee victory. That was part of that second series, first road trip after the All-Star break, when unfortunately things went really haywire for the Reds, having been swept at New York against the Yankees and then coming here being swept 3 more. Who's trying to get it going here in the 7th? 11 of the last 12 retired by Lohse. Solid base hit by Bruce on into center field. That's the tying run aboard to start inning number 7.
Little things, little steps for Jay Bruce. He had the most important hit of the day yesterday when he was able to hit a base hit almost in an identical spot, just to the right of second base bag. Lohse thought he should have grabbed that ball as it went by, but it was by him too quickly. And he sent that eventual go-ahead and only run scored the ball game yesterday over to third base. And he gets a base hit right here to start the 7th inning.
Batter now is Phillips. Ran part of that 8th inning rally yesterday afternoon against the Cardinals as well. He had walked to start the inning, later scored the only run. Hey, we want to pass along congratulations to Dick Schofield and the Billings Mustangs tonight for winning the Pioneer League Championship. They won it yesterday with a 6-side win over Orem. Is that right? Is that how you say that? O-R-E-M, Orem? Mm-hmm. They won 6-5 last night, taking the series 2-0 and winning the Pioneer League Championship. One of only 2 Reds minor league teams that made the postseason. Bakersfield was the other. They were eliminated. Billings goes on to win the title in the Pioneer League. They've been a Reds affiliate for a long, long time. You didn't play at Billings, did you?
I did not. I missed the entire, is it Northwest League up there?
Pioneer League.
Pioneer League. Beautiful country. You know, it just goes to show you how quickly scouting reports get around. I mean, the more you see Brandon Phillips play after coming back very quickly from that thumb surgery, quicker than anybody ever thought, the more you see pitchers trying to pitch him inside of a fastball. They're testing that hand, testing that thumb, trying to challenge him to get the bat head out. Cardinals did it the entire 4-game series. The Brewers are coming in there again.
Looking at the Reds bullpen, we see Logan Ondrusek getting up, starting to heat. There's Logan. Nice eye to lay off there by Phillips. They'll work the count full. In case you're wondering about pitch count for Daniel Corsino. He's thrown 79 pitches through 6 with only 1 walk. Guy who walked basically a batter every other inning down at AA this year has not had a walk issue in his 3 appearances in the big leagues, and certainly in his first big league start here. Bruce on the run. Phillips stays alive with a foul ball. Jay going again, and ball 4. Well, yesterday it was a Phillips walk and a Bruce hit. Today it's a Bruce hit and a Phillips walk in reverse order. Either way, it's 2 on with nobody out. You can always have the latest information on the Reds right at your fingertips. Simply follow Reds reporter Kevin Goheen from FoxSportsOhio.com on Twitter at FSOhio_K Goheen for the latest news and stories on the Reds. That's K-G-O-H-E-E-N, Goheen. Zach Duke, former Red from a year ago, left-hander, throwing now in the Milwaukee bullpen, along with right-hander Brandon Kinsler. First walk issued by Loesch. Here's who we were talking about. Kinsler 53, Duke 59. Jonathan Broxton, of course, with this ball club. The former Red traded over here wearing number 51. He's made 5 appearances, has not been scored on. Ron Renicky was singing his praises today in the Milwaukee Journal Sentinel, the paper. What a great acquisition it was for this team. Heisey with 2 on and nobody out. Reds look to bunt here to third, foul. Ramirez had been anticipating that bunt.
Chris Heisey, a really good fastball hitter, so everybody knows that. Loesch especially. That pitch was 82 miles an hour, probably a slider there. And, Loesch is thinking about, he didn't know that Heisey was going to bunt. He held the disguise pretty good. But now that you're thinking a bunt is on, Heisey might not be best looking for a fastball here. Loesch is going to try to get him out in front and roll over a ball and to try to turn a double play behind him. The key, of course, is to get a good jump off second base if you're Jay Bruce. Average runner, although Jeanette, the second baseman, kind of hovering near the bag to keep him close.
Over the head of Heisey, who did show bunt again. You hate to see that double play turn. The Reds hitters have hit into the fewest ground into double plays in the big leagues this year. Determined to try to get that runner over Brian Price, but Heisey bunts that one foul, and now he's in the hole, a ball and 2 strikes.
I'll tell you, if Brian Price has any homework assignment for the Reds this winter, it'll be to hit the batting cages and learn how to be a consistent bunter. The Reds have had more problems trying to execute the sacrifice bunt than any Reds team I've seen in a long, long time. That's good form right up until the time the ball hits the bat.
Just not happy with himself there. Hard into center field. Gomez going back on the track, and he'll haul it in. Both runners will tag. Throw to second is wide. Stumbling into the bag down there is Phillips. Bruce gets over to third. It has the same effect as a sacrifice bunt.
It sure does, and that makes that run back into the dugout a lot lighter for Chris Heisey, as they're able to hit that ball so far to center field that he advances both runners. Boy, he hit this ball a ton. For an 0-2 pitch, I imagine that Kyle Lohse is very fortunate out there to get that ball back. Look at Brandon sliding head first, despite the fact that he has got that torn up thumb of his.
Well, one way or another, get the job done, and Heisey does it there.
All right, now Brian Pena with a chance to drive him in, to bring the infield in.
2 chances now to at least tie this game for the Reds. Pena 0 for 2. He sits at 25 RBIs on the year. In case you're wondering about his number, 253 with runners in scoring position.
Now, they had a couple of relievers warming up in that Brewer bullpen. If Ron Renicky was going to make a move, now would be the time they'd make the move to bring in the left-hander Duke to turn Brian Pena around the other way. So he evidently decided he did not want to do that. He's telling now Scooter Gennett to move back a little bit.
Pena in the air to right. Braun will make the tag and throw. Bruce will tag and come to the plate. Throw is a little offline, and Bruce scores. Sacrifice fly, Brian Pena. Game is tied 2-2. Pena gets the job done. That's to get him on, get him over, get him in that you love to see.
Important to get them over right there. It could not be more emphasized than that play.
On that play, Phillips also tags. He's now at third with 2 out. So if Corsino is finished, and we don't know that, if he is finished, he could not be the loser in this game. In fact, if the Reds could push this run across, he would qualify for the win. It's up to Cozart. Zach had to hit his last time. 1 for 2. Reds score in the first. Brewers get 2 in the fourth. Reds get at least 1 so far here in the 7th to tie things. Devin Mesoraco. I would imagine if Zach Duke would have come in to face Pena, and Pena's averaged 144 batting right-handed, Mesoraco would have been up a little bit earlier to hit. He's on deck now to bat for Corsino, should the Reds keep this 7th inning going. 3-0. Corsino 6 innings, 2 runs, 5 hits, a walk, 4 strikeouts. Impressive indeed in his first big league start. 4 out of the zone in a row from Lohse. Ball 4. Cozart on. Second walk of the game, both in this inning by the former Red. Now with the runners at the corners and 2 out, here comes Mesoraco. As soon as he is announced, we're going to see more likely than not Renicky go to the mound. Lohse is at 105 pitches. Here comes Ron Renicky. He'll signal to the bullpen. He wants the right-hander Kinsler. So the Brewers will make a pitching change. Kyle Lohse out, Brandon Kinsler in. Game tied 2-2 here in the top of the 7th inning from Miller Park in Milwaukee. This is tonight's Skyline Chili call to the bullpen. Here comes Kinsler.
It may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form, and the accounts and descriptions of this game may not be disseminated without the express written consent of the Cincinnati Reds.
Well, we'll ask you to continue to tweet your photos using the hashtag #OhioFanPhoto, but let's take a look at tonight's fan photo of the game, brought to you by AT&T. Here's Taylor enjoying the ball game at Great American Ballpark, it looks like. Thank you, Taylor, for the photo. AT&T fan photo of the game. Mesoraco will bat for Daniel Corsino. He's engaged in this one, looking for his first big league win. If the Reds could get a hit here, he would be the pitcher of record. 6 innings, 2 runs, 2 hits, a walk, 4 strikeouts. Well, Corsino, 79 pitches. Pretty good effort by the 24-year-old.
Not bad at all. In fact, very impressive for the young man that comes out here. You know, he had to be nervous. He didn't have much time to really prepare for this, and maybe that was a blessing in disguise. He did not know he was going to start until later on this afternoon when they pulled Malatos from the start and inserted Corsino. Sometimes it's better when you got a young player up here. You don't give the kid a lot of time to get nervous.
That's what we were saying the other night about tomorrow's starter,
David Holmberg.
For the Reds, David Holmberg, yeah, when he appeared in relief.
The Reds could go a long way with a hit right here to give Daniel Corsino a little icing on top of that good performance and put him in line for a W.
Mesoraco at 283 on the year, 23 home runs, 73 RBIs, both second on the team to Frazier's power numbers. 2 out of 7 as a pinch hitter this year. Evan played yesterday in the game, caught, remember, Johnny Cueto, went 0 for 3. Phillips will go ahead and run at third. Cozart over at first. 2-2 game, top of the 7th. Struck him out. Kinsler gets the job done. He gets the pinch hitter Mesoraco, but the Reds tie things. Stretch time here in Milwaukee. Look at Daniel Corsino tonight, Chris Welsh, in his first big league start.
Very impressive. Really came right after the hitters. In the first 16 batters, he only had 4 3-ball counts. Mix in his breaking ball and his slider, a little comeback fastball right there. And that's a pretty doggone good line for your Major League debut as a starter. 2 hits in 6 innings, 4 strikeouts, walked 1. And right now he will not get the win nor the loss, but a very good effort for Daniel Porcino and a quality start. So 1 for 1 for Porcino in that category.
Gotta believe he's, of course, wishes the Reds had taken the lead, but he's sitting back now taking a deep breath and thought, wow, I got through that first one, did okay.
You know what? You get a taste of it, you think you can do it, and the kid probably hopes or thinks that he belongs up here, and that's a good sign.
Meanwhile, Logan Ondrusek now will take over as the second Reds pitcher.
A little bit of an off year for Logan. Overall earned run average jumped higher than his Major League average. He has been very consistent out of the bullpen since coming up in 2010. 60-plus games a year. This is only game number 39, and as you can see, before he puts that ball in his glove, he gets that split finger grip on there.
He appeared once in the Cardinals series. That was the first game, a 5-0 loss. A lot of run, a hit in 2/3 of an inning. Comes on here to face Braun, then Parra, then Maldonado, trying to keep it 2-2. Reds trying to make it 4 in a row. Brewers trying to make it 3 in a row in terms of wins. Cardinals are leading 4-1, 7th inning at home against the Rockies. Remember, they scored 3 times in the first. Cubs and the Pirates there in the middle of the 8th inning. Pittsburgh leading that one 6-3. They scored in every frame from the 2nd through the 6th. Javier Baez, another home run for the Cubs, his 8th. Also a home run by Arismendi Alcantara, his 9th. A couple of guys who started the year in the minor leagues. Done a pretty good job since going up to Chicago. The former Red, current Brewer, Jonathan Broxton, now throwing in the Milwaukee bullpen. There's Big JB. Quiet killer onto that Reds bullpen. And hard to right by Braun. Bruce nearing the wall. Bruce can't come up with it. And Braun's going to get himself a double. That ball smashed by Braun to right. Jay looking up into the looking at the video board. Boy, that looks like a catchable ball.
Well, it did, but it's still, you're out there in somewhat unfamiliar territory. You're not sure when that ball is coming up on you, and he just looked like it went over his glove. I mean, Jay Bruce saved the game yesterday with a catch going over the wall to bring back a home run ball that was hit by Matt Adams. And you're so used to seeing him make those plays, and when he doesn't, it's rather a big surprise.
It goes as the 28th double of the year for Braun, and now a big opportunity for the Brewers here in the bottom of the 7th. First up, Gerardo Parra. You mentioned Parra's been a better hitter over here than he has been with the Diamondbacks. He's over 300 with the Brewers. A little over a month that he has been here.
Boy, in a tie game in the bottom of the 7th inning with a runner at second base and nobody out, you got one job to do right there. And he just had a fastball pretty much right down Broadway to try to pull that ball to the right side and was unable to do that.
Interesting that the Brewers go out and get Gerardo Parra. And they had Chris Davis, who's hit 22 home runs, driven in 68, as their primary left fielder, although he's a right-handed hitter. Braun, with the injuries that he's had this year, the thumb that's been nagging him here and there, so they get an extra outfielder who's a very good defender and a pretty decent hitter to come in here and spell whomever may need a day off here and there.
Well, they wanted a left-handed hitter, and Chris Davis is the right-hander. Lately, he's had some forearm problems. But Parra's got to get that ball the right side on Drusick, trying to keep him from doing so.
He does not get the job done there. What a great job by Andrusick.
Really good job by Andrusick. Once he got ahead, he was not going to give Parra a chance to pull that ball. That's why, as a hitter up there, I mean, the first couple of pitches in the at-bat in this assignment are the most important ones. Once you get down 0-2 and he starts running that stuff away from you, awfully tough to get it to the right side. In fact, that is so impressive. We'll make it our flamethrower by Cholula Hot Sauce, 93 miles an hour tonight.
Lyle Overbay is off the Brewers bench and into the on-deck circle. Here's he's going to bat for Martin Maldonado. Remember, situations like these, once September rolls around, all these teams have players galore. They're free to make changes without major consequences in terms of bench personnel.
You know, I had an interesting conversation with a couple of people today, all former teammates of mine, one being the general manager of the Milwaukee Brewers, Doug Melvin, and he said for the last 6 years he has given a suggestion at the general manager's meeting that there should be a limited number of players on your roster in September. After all, baseball is the only sport when you play the most important month of the year, you essentially have an unlimited number of players. You don't do it in any other sport. And he said, I don't mind expanding the rosters, but let's cap it at 30 or 35 so that there's one team has 30 and the other has 30, or one team has 35 and the other has 35. And he made mention that the Cardinals have 36 and the Reds now have 35 or 36. And if he doesn't call up that many, he feels that he may be at a disadvantage in a very long extra inning game.
So you wouldn't limit the number of players you call up. For instance, the Red calls up 10, but only 30 would be active every night.
Correct. And you couldn't just take out like last night's starter. You couldn't take Johnny Cueto off the list tonight just because he pitched yesterday. But the players that you call up after August 31st would be kind of a revolving number of players, and you say you pick 5 of those 10 players you call up and you make them active for any given night.
Not a bad idea at all.
It's a good idea.
This is Lyle Overbay batting for Martin Maldonado. Runner at second base, one out. He takes that borderline call. This big crowd of over 31,000 disagrees with Dan Iasone.
Iasone's had a big strike zone tonight.
Particularly there, low, below the knees. Overbay hitting .238 with 4 home runs on the year, but he's been a terrific pinch hitter. 10 for 27 off the Brewers bench. Second go around with him in the Milwaukee organization. Heisey chasing, not going to get it.
Andrusick throwing hard tonight. You know, he's another one of those guys that you look at the radar gun and you see 93 or 94, but because he is so big and tall, he's 6'8", long arms, long stride, and when he lets that ball go, he's a lot closer to home plate than many other pitchers who are throwing 94. That ball gets on you.
Again, Heisey chasing, and again he will run out of room. Count remains 0-2 to Lyle Overbay. Overbay's 37 years old now, been playing professionally in the big league since 2001. We mentioned he's in his second go-round with Milwaukee. He played here back in 04 and 05, was an everyday first baseman back in those days. Set the Brewers single-season doubles record in 04 when he had 53 of them. The fact that first base has been a bit of a black hole is the term you used earlier for this Milwaukee club. They brought in Overbay, they brought in Mark Reynolds, just haven't gotten the consistency that they want over there. They brought a young man up from AAA Nashville recently that's done a pretty good job for them, Matt Clark.
Yeah, that's why it's so difficult. Now Clark is a guy that has been around a couple of different organizations. I think he was with the New York Mets earlier in the year, if I'm not mistaken. And he had a way to get out of that contract there. And actually instrumental in him coming over to the Milwaukee Brewers and then up to the Major League was the Reds' old AAA manager, Rick Sweet, who is now the manager down in Nashville, the Brewers AAA franchise.
I loved it when Rick was over here, didn't
it? It just goes to show you, though, Overbay and Reynolds, unbalanced players right there. You can't always add them together and get one balanced guy.
Check swing. He went around, according to Dan Iasonia. They throw on to first and get the out. So Andrusik, after giving up the double to Braun, now 2/3 of the way home, getting a strikeout of Parra and a strikeout and a throw to first against Overbay.
Boy, does this look familiar? Leadoff double. 2 batters later, man still stands at second base, and 2 outs on the board.
Pretty good work here by Andrusik. Boy, oh boy. You could make the argument that he should be through this inning. Now, Ricky Weeks has come off the bench. The bat for Gene Segura. Weeks does have a pinch hit home run this year. Numbers are better this year than they've been the last year and a half. He's at 262 overall with 6 home runs. Gene Segura having nowhere near the kind of offensive year this year that he had a year ago. Lifted for the pinch hitter. Weeks against Andrusik. Career-wise, there are those numbers. 333 with a pair of home runs. Brewers have only 3 hits, 2 of them by the man at second base, Braun. Ball a strike. Both starters out. Both had quality starts. Kyle Loesch, 6 2/3, 2 runs, 5 hits for Milwaukee, 105 pitches. Daniel Corsino, his first big league start, 6 innings, 2 runs, 2 hits, 79 pitches. Neither pitcher will be involved in a decision in this game. I wonder, based on what he did tonight, and it's not only on what he did, but we have to see how Matt Latos comes through, the treatment that he's going to get on his right elbow. Again, he did not start tonight due to a bone bruise on his right elbow that's built up over the course of his last 2 or 3 starts. And hurting somewhat. Scratched for tonight's start. Corsino is in there. Corsino did a heck of a job. 2-2. Pitcher spot on deck. I just mentioned the name of Matt Clark. He's been playing some first base for the Brewers. He is in the on deck circle. Got him. What a heck of a job done in the bottom of the 7th inning for Logan Ondrusek. Comes back after the leadoff double. Strikeout, strikeout, strikeout.
Tied at 2 here at Miller Park. Christopher Negron set to be the second batter here in this half inning for Cincinnati. And he got the Reds on the board early with his 5th home run of the season, and we've been tracking it all season long. One of the fastest home run trots you'll ever see. It's our John Morrell hot dog play of the game. Put the clock on him. He seems to better himself each and every time out, and this one, indeed, will end up the fastest of the season. It's always fun to see or listen to the crowd. Does that guy know that it went out of the ballpark? 15.5 seconds. It's a new Christopher Negron record and your 2014 home run trot leaderboard, according to TaterTrotTracker.com. Christopher Negron, the top 2 of 2014.
Just goes to show you they'll track anything. 15.5 seconds for Christopher Negron.
I do like the name of that site, though. Tater Trot Tracker. Isn't that what it is?
Tater Trot Tracker, yeah. TTT.
Don't say that 3 times fast.
Here is Jonathan Broxton, the former Red, now a Brewer. Traded a couple of weeks ago. In fact, the Reds just announced the names of the 2 players that were coming over from the Brewers to the Reds during the latter stages of the Cardinals series.
I was wondering if Billy was going to bunt on the big man. You notice the radar gun reading on Jonathan Broxton. We saw this as the season went on, that his velocity started bouncing up a little bit the further away he got from that surgery that he had last year. In fact, it's a little over 12 months, I think, that Broxton had elbow surgery. Similar to that what Homer Bailey has had, although evidently Bailey's condition on his arm was not as severe as the injury that Broxton had when he had the surgery performed.
Yeah, the muscle on Jonathan's flexor mass was completely off the bone, right?
That I don't know.
That's the
I just
story
go by
that we
sore
hear.
elbow nowadays.
Yeah.
Sore elbow, sore shoulder, sore knee.
2-2 there.
Not allowed to play doctor anymore. Not even on TV.
I guess the only one that's allowed to do that these days is
real doctors.
Jeff Brantley.
Well, he's been through about every surgery there is, so
yes, he has.
He can talk from personal experience.
6th time out there for Broxton since becoming a Brewer. Last appeared for the Reds on August the 29th against Pittsburgh. Remember, his last 2 times out for the Reds, he allowed 3 runs in 2 innings. The blown save there was traded. Made his first appearance for Milwaukee September the 4th. This marks his 4th appearance in the last 5 days for them.
Really worth noting that, the Brewers were trying to add a power right-handed arm to their bullpen almost all year long. And you think that before the trading deadline would be the time that you see a lot of movement. And evidently, according to sources over here we found in Milwaukee, Jonathan Broxton was not available before the trading deadline. The Reds were still in it. They thought that they had a chance. Last thing they wanted to do was indicate to everybody in Reds country that they were going to trade a player away. But after the Reds began to fall out and Broxton got through waivers and the Brewers claimed, that's when they made that deal. So it worked out great for the Brewers. He's throwing the ball well, and it freed up some money for next year for the Reds. And the Reds have a couple of pitchers, right-handed pitchers in return, that they'll take a good look at next year in spring training.
In case you missed those names, a right-hander Kevin Shackelford, a right-hander Barrett Aston, the 2 players that came over from the Brewers to the Reds at August 31st trade. There were a couple of changes defensively for Milwaukee. Jonathan Lucroy now behind the plate. There's Lyle Overbay. He's playing first base. They also have a new shortstop. There's Lucroy, and the shortstop is Hector Gomez. Here's Hector, placing Gene Segura. Strike 3 call.
Better swing the bat tonight, boys. Dan Iasagna is in a ring-em-up kind of mood. That's high enough from the side view. That's a low strike. A lot of times we look at where the catcher catches the ball, and because he holds it there an extra moment, that's where we're supposed to make the decision whether it was a strike or not. But it's actually when it crosses the plate. And if it's got some good downward action, a perfect strike is a pitch that's going to be just below the strike zone when the catcher catches it, but go right across the hollow of the knees when it crosses the plate.
Negron 1 out of 3 after the home run. He has fanned twice. Now he's in the hole, 2 strikes. Tight battle here at Miller Park. 2-2 into the 8th. Right center field, another hit for Negron, cut off by Braun. Negron hustling into second. There's a headlong dive. He has himself 2 extra base hits tonight. He gets the double here. A 1-out 2-base hit gives the Reds an opportunity. 6th double for Negron.
Have you noticed that Jonathan Broxton is throwing an awful lot of fastballs? I'm not even sure we've seen him break off a slider, and he was kind of like that in a week or so before the Reds traded him. Don't know whether he's lost confidence in it, whether he doesn't feel like he's got good command of it. Does his arm bark when he throws it? I don't know. But Negron is a good fastball hitter, and he got one right there to the line in the right center field gap.
Now it's Frazier. That's going to be playable over Bay and Jeanette. Jeanette calls off the first baseman and makes the play. There are 2 out. Ever stay with us after the game? Fox Sports Ohio, break it down for you. Be the first ones to visit with the manager, Brian Price. All that part of Reds Live post game, brought to you by Performance Kings Honda.
You know, Jim, I used a term earlier that people may not understand what I meant when I described the bottom of the strike zone, because it is in the baseball rules,
right?
The hollow of the knee. But if you're sitting and down right now, you can reach down on your knee and you reach right below your kneecap, and where that tendon goes down, you got 2 little hollow things on either side.
Right.
That's the hollow of the knee.
Hollow of the knee.
No.
You need to do that as part of Tech Talk, a strike zone look on Tech Talk.
Well, I got a text from a golfer. I didn't know what it was, so.
Of the hollow of the knee?
That's an explanation even a golfer can understand.
All right. With the opportunity now. Negron at second, 2 out. 2-2 game, 8th inning. We pass along our congratulations to Tommy Tuberville and the Cincinnati Bearcats tonight. They are winners 58-34 over Toledo. That game played at Paul Brown Stadium, and they are finally playing football at UC. Popped up. Ramirez got it. Boston gives up the double, but not a run. Bottom of the 8th upcoming in a 2-2 game. Minutes before the start of each and every game. That's with Reds Live pregame presented by Ray St. Clair Roofing, right here on your exclusive home for Reds baseball, Fox Sports Ohio. Remember, tomorrow night a little bit earlier, 6:30 with Reds Live, 7:10 with the first pitch. On the mound tomorrow night for the Reds will be David Holmberg, getting his 3rd start, but what a job he did the other night for the Reds when they had the problem with Dylan Axelrod. He left with an oblique strain. That was on Monday night. Holmberg came in, and all he did was throw 5 2/3 innings of shutout relief.
Boy, you take that tomorrow out of the left-hander. He'll get a shot to pitch again, this time as a starter, and you hope he doesn't go out there and get nervous. I mean, sometimes, as we mentioned tonight, kind of an emergency starter. Daniel Corsino didn't get much advance notice. He goes out there and goes 6 innings of 2-run baseball. So you have a tendency when you're a young player to kind of overcomplicate things a little bit in your mind, especially the night before. Well, Pedro Villarreal, he has been a starter before for the Reds in the past, but he gets a relief appearance here, number 6 for Pedro. Throwing the ball pretty well. Opponent batting average under 200.
He had back-to-back-to-back very nice appearances, totaling 5 innings, 3 games, no runs, 1 hit prior to his last time out when he also pitched on Monday in that 5-0 loss. He gave up the home run ball to Matt Adams late in the game. The 5-0 Reds lost. So here he is working the 8th inning. And a ground out on the first pitch seen there to Jason Rogers, pinch hitting for Broxton. 1 pitch, 1 out. Top of the order now, Carlos Gomez. Gomez tonight 0 for 3, but he scored 1 of the runs the Brewers produced back in the 4th when he struck out, then reached on a wild pitch. And Pena threw to first base. The ball got away. He was charged with an error, and Gomez went to second. Later was brought home on a base hit to right by Lucroy. To the right of Phillips. Brandon will make this play. Ground ball, 2 out.
Same pitch to Gomez as was to Rogers. Same result.
Well, Ohio State looks to get back on the winning track tomorrow. That's against the Kent State Golden Flashes at the Horseshoe. Find out how the Buckeyes are going to get it done on Game Time with Urban Meyer tomorrow morning at 9 on Fox Sports Ohio. You know who'll be tuned into that, don't you? The birthday boy himself, Tom Brenneman.
Nice.
He'll be watching it. Game Time with Urban Meyer. Jeanette lifts it out of play. Scooter tonight 0 for 3. Reds in the 9th, Phillips, Heisey, Pena. Anybody gets on Cozart. Milwaukee will employ another pitcher. Broxton 1 inning, 1 hit, 1 strikeout. So 6 appearances, no runs, 2 hits for Broxton since becoming a Brewer. Francisco Rodriguez. Remember, there's no save situation in extra innings for the home team simply because they win it in the bottom of the inning. There's no need. There's a pop-up and a good job by Pedro Villarreal. Retires the Brewers in order here in the bottom of the 8th.
Guarantee the opportunity to purchase All-Star tickets by becoming a Red season ticket holder with plans starting at under $9 per seat. Now's your chance to guarantee your seat for the Midsummer Classic, the Home Run Derby, Fan Fest, and more. Secure your All-Star tickets today by calling 513-765-7500 or by visiting reds.com/2015. Joey Votto on the trip. First time since he's been on the disabled list, and there you see Joey before the game today running, and actually looked pretty good doing the agility drills that he did. Took some ground balls, played a little first base. Now, he did not hit in the cage. He did hit off the tee underneath. And with so little games left in the season, not sure where they could get him some live hitting, whether it be a simulated game or perhaps going to Arizona. Now, this is just me talking. It was such little time left, it's hard to see him coming back. I'm not sure what they would get out of it, but the positive news is there is progress in that leg, and no matter the situation going forward, that is a good thing.
Well, we, of course, wish him nothing but the best. Hope it all works out for him, whether it be at the end of this year or certainly in 2015. A trying year for the Reds, certainly for number 19. Francisco Rodriguez, a.k.a. K-Rod, into the game as the fourth Brewers pitcher.
Well, he got that moniker K-Rod back really in 2003 and 2004 when he was striking him out at a rate almost like Aroldis Chapman. He still averages more than one strikeout per inning. In fact, in his major league career, he's pitched 831 innings and has over 1,000 strikeouts. Not that he does it with an overpowering fastball. It used to be mid-90s. But he has that herky-jerky motion, as you see right there. And he's got an excellent off-speed pitch. Good curveball and a good changeup.
Saved the game here last night for them in the 4-2 win over the Marlins. Actually saved both games that they won against the Marlins. Appearing tonight now for the fourth consecutive day. Worked on the ninth, took the loss. Saved the game Wednesday, saved the game Thursday. Brandon draws a 4-pitch walk. So he is on for the third consecutive time. That's the go-ahead run to start the ninth inning. Third walk given up by Milwaukee pitching. Here's Heisey. Remember, he tried to bunt the runners along in the seventh, could not get the job done. Ended up swinging away with 2 strikes at a deep fly ball to center that did get the runners over. Ultimately, Bruce did score on a sac fly to right by Pena. Let's see what he can do here. There's the bunt. Rodriguez will get it and throw low, but a good scoop by Overbay. The save, a throwing error by Francisco Rodriguez.
Well, nicely done that time by Chris Heisey. He gets the bunt down, no drama involved. He gets it on the first pitch. That ball coming up and in on him was almost an active defense. Rodriguez almost wildly throws that ball down the right field line. That's a nice play by Overbay.
And now it's Brian Pena 0 for 2, but with a sacrifice fly that pushed the second Reds run of this game across back in the 7th inning. Cozart on deck.
That is the changeup right there. And what makes it so effective for Rodriguez is that he kind of jumps at you a little bit. He goes into that delivery, even from a stretch. And you see him jumping at you, and you get all excited, and you get fast, and then the ball comes in slow.
toward the middle. They're cheating that way, and the play will be made there by Gomez. Boy, that's good defensive alignment there by the Brewers. That takes a hit right away from Pena. For 2 out. So now it's Cozart who has a hit and a walk. He's been on twice tonight. How about Cozart lifetime? 2 for 2 against Rodriguez. He gets a hit here. Reds could try to close it out in the bottom of the 9th. Jumbo Diaz throwing in the pen. Aroldis Chapman saved each of the last 3 games against the Cardinals. Didn't figure he'll work tonight. Here's Jumbo loading up on that bubble gum. That face right in front of him there, you're not familiar, was Ryan Denick, a left-hander who's done a decent job since coming up in early September. Phillips the go-ahead run at third. Jack Hanahan on deck to bat for Villarreal. Three and one. Orsino watching intently. He can't be the winner. The team could get a win in his first big league start.
Well, that's an awfully good pitch on a 3-1 count. I mean, you are geared for fastball, and he sells it like a heater, and you find out too late that it's not.
Ball 4, so Cozart walks for the second straight time. 2 walks in the inning for K-Rod. Let's see if the Reds can make him pay as time is called. Here comes out of the dugout Rick Kranitz, the pitching coach. He'll pay a visit to the mound. Anaheim has been announced as the pinch hitter. You wonder about who else from a left-handed standpoint may be available off the bench. There's a switch hitter, catcher Barnhart, although you probably would not want to use him. Donald Lutz is on the bench. He could potentially pinch hit. Ramon Santiago, a switch hitter, could bat from the left side. Jack Hanahan, who will walk to the plate, be announced as a pinch hitter with runners at the corners and 2 out. Hanahan, of course, was on the disabled list after undergoing right rotator cuff surgery in the offseason. Didn't play actively in the big leagues until the end of July. He's hitting .189, 7 hits and 37 at bats with 2 RBIs. 2 for 10 as a pinch hitter. He does have a hit in 2 AB's lifetime against K-Rod. Hanahan trying to deliver the big blow here in the 9th inning for the Reds. We're going to look now to 2-1 pitch from Francisco Rodriguez. Walked Phillips. Heisey moved him along with a sacrifice bunt. Pena grounded out. Cozart walked. First and third, 2 out. Hanahan pinch hitting here for Villarreal. Two and two. Cozart leads away at first. Phillips over there at third. Ball 3 with a runner. Cozart taking off. Now a hit could mean a pair.
Now the Brewers realize that Cozart's not really the runner that they care about. In fact, they did not even go to the bag to try to defend that stolen base. They wanted to hold their position just in case Anaheim puts the ball in play.
That does get credit for his 7th steal. Strike 3 call. Anaheim thought it was inside. He questions the call of Dan Iasonia, but to no avail. Bottom of the 9th upcoming in a 2-2 game. Has been brought to you by Chevy. Visit your Tri-State Chevy dealer today. And by Cincinnati Children's Hospital, who ranks 3rd in the country on U.S. News and World Report 2014 Best Children's Hospital. Hank Hanahan called out on strikes by Dan Iasonia to end the top of the 9th inning. Had some words for the umpire, then turned and walked back toward the dugout, and apparently he came back out. It looks like he's been thrown out of this game. Brian Price out there to try to intervene. That's the crew chief Dale Scott in there also. was all the action between innings here at Miller Park.
Well, the good news of that is it's nice to see a little bit of emotion. The bad news is, I mean, I'm not sure what Jack Hanahan expects to happen there. Expect maybe to get a little bit of his money's worth. Anytime you get tossed from a game, it costs you some money, so you might as well get some kind of satisfaction.
We didn't get a chance to look at the replay of that pitch, but just from his body language, it looked like it was an inside delivery. Here it is. Looked like one of those backdoor two-seamers, didn't it? We see Sam LeCure throw so much of it, Johnny Cueto. And we go to the bottom of the ninth. Jumbo Diaz now is taking over for the Reds. Jumbo's 30th appearance, a 3.21 ERA for the big man. Impressive number of only 212 hitters against Jumbo. Started the year and was very impressive down at AAA. He worked in one of the Cardinal games. That was the 9-5 win. A lot of run in one inning. Hit pretty well to left center field. Hamilton on the run. Billy had it, and then the ball popped out of his glove. He's slow to get up out there. That's going to be a double for Jonathan Lucroy to start the bottom of the ninth. Hamilton almost made an incredible catch on the run into left center field.
I mean, he was going full out. Billy Hamilton goes where very few outfielders would even be able to get to that spot to try to make the catch. Fortunately, did not hurt himself going up against the wall right there, but nearly a miraculous catch. What a great effort by Hamilton.
Brewers trying to win this thing in the bottom of the ninth inning. Get a leadoff two-base hit by Jonathan Lucroy. 51st double of the year for him. I mean, his career high was 25 doubles last year. He has more than doubled that now, closing in on the franchise record in the year of 53, held by Lyle Overbay.
Well, what a player he is and what a hitter he has been this year.
Here's Ramirez.
Of course, the same challenge now for Ramirez is what happened in the last inning that went on Gerardo Parra. Try to get that ball to the right side. Jumbo Diaz probably going to pepper that fastball in on his fist, make it tough to do that.
Cozart will throw Ramirez out, but he gets the job done, moving the runner Lucroy over to third.
Good read by Lucroy. I mean, as soon as that ball came off the bat, he was on his way to third. That ground ball was pretty much right at him. It wasn't the right side of the infield, but he sees where he needs to be. Got a good lead because they weren't holding him on, and there was no play at third for Cozart. So now you've got to do a lot of things defensively if you're the Reds. You got to bring your infield your outfield all the way in, so shallow that you'll be able to throw Lucroy out on a fly ball to the outfield. Question now for Brian Price and Jeff Pico, and they may be talking it over right now with Jumbo Diaz. I mean, do you want to load the bases?
Well, if you walk Braun and you walk Parra, you're going to get Overbay, a left-handed hitter, or a pinch hitter off the bench. Then you're going to get Hector Gomez, young man who was recently called up from AAA.
Now you have Braun. Braun's got a couple of base hits in this game. A double last time up opposite field and a single. But he's had a sore right hand. I mean, sore right thumb, and now it's gone all over his hand. And they're not going to even give him a chance a former MVP to win this ball game, and I think that's a very smart move.
Put him on intentionally. That'll bring the lefty Gerardo Parra, who was acquired at the end of July from Arizona, and this Milwaukee club to bat against Jumbo Diaz. Parra is going to be called back. That completes the walk to Ryan Braun. Parra had gone back into the dugout, but now he comes back out. Logan Schaefer comes out of the dugout to run at third for Lucroy.
Now all that really means is that you've got to play the outfield even a couple of steps in closer, because that's about how much faster Schaefer is than Lucroy from third to home.
Now they're going to intentionally walk Gerardo Parra. So just what you said, Chris, they went out and talked about it, decided this is the best move. Back-to-back intentional walk.
Well, it's the move that you have to make if you have confidence in your pitcher to throw strikes. And Diaz has shown the Reds the ability to be able to throw strikes. This way, you don't have to hope for a double play ball. All you want is really a ground ball to somebody. They come to home. Maybe you can turn a double play starting at home, but at least you're going to get the lead runner on a force play. If you get that out, then you move everybody back to normal position, and you just hope you can get out of the inning from there.
Puts the major onus on Diaz to be able to throw strikes the rest of the inning, that's for certain. That completes that walk. Back-to-back intentional walks, one to Braun, one to Gerardo Parra. Loads them up for the Brewers with one out. While Overbay the man on the spot. Brewers this year have had 14 last at-bat wins. 29 come from behind wins, 5 walk-off wins. They're looking for one here in the bottom of the ninth. Overbay 0 for 1 with a strikeout in his career against Jumbo. Brewers win their third in a row. They win it by the final score of 3-2. They celebrate out near the dirt area between first and second base. Indoor fireworks go off. Brewers win their 77th game. Overbay got a fat fastball and he hit it hard.
Well, you have to come in there with a strike to him. You got to challenge a hitter. You can't afford to get behind and possibly walk him in. They were ready for a celebration. They've been waiting around here this month and half of last month for a long, long time to have some games end like this. And Overbay's able